Here are pictures of Nashil and Ken. Each one is a bundle of possibilities. Describe what they were before birth, their point of origin, and who they will possibly be after birth onto adulthood. What will they possibly become? Expound your answers.
Good day everyone, I am Jenalyn Felicano and I am here to describe what I think Nashil and Ken's point of origin and who they will possibly be after birth and to adulthood. So, nag-base po ako sa picture nila. I will start with their point of origin. Simulan ko kay Ken, itong batang may hawak ng mais, at base sa background ng picture niya, para lang siya nasa simpleng community. So, inassume ko na namumuhay lang siya ng simpleng buhay. Simple lang ang pamilya niya. Simple lang ang tinitirahan niya. Gayun din, kahit si Nashil naman, base sa background niya na nasa swimming pool siya, yung damit niya, saka yung physical appearance niya, mukha siyang mayaman. So, inassume ko na lumaki siya sa mayaman na pamilya. And, pupunta naman tayo sa tingin ko, maaaring maging sila kapag lumaki sila. Si Ken, itong bata na to, feeling ko, lalaki siyang nag-aaral ng matyaga. Dahil gusto niya makaahon sa hirap kasi nga lumaki lang siya sa simpleng buhay, sa simpleng pamilya. Alam niya, nakaranas siya ng hirap. So, I think, siya yung tipo ng tao na magtsatsagang mag-aral ng mabuti. While si Nashil naman, itong maaaring lumaki sa mayamang pamilya, tingin ko siya yung tipo ng tao na chill lang sa buhay kasi hindi niya iniisip kung saan siya kukuha ng pang-tuition niya, ng mga gagamitin niya na kakailanganin niya dahil meron naman siyang mayaman na pamilya. So, yun yung tingin kong magiging sila. That's all. Thank you.
Here are the pictures of Nashil and Ken. So, describe what they were before birth and who they will be possibly be after birth unto adulthood. So, para po sa akin, nakikita ko sa dalawang picture na ito ni Nashil at Ken, lumaki sila sa magkaibang pamilya and magkaiba rin yung mga taong nakakasalamuhan nila. Para po sa akin, sa tingin ko po, dahil bata pa sila, is maganda pa yung katayuan ng buhay nila. Pagdating po nang sila'y tumanda, doon po natin makikita yung pagbabago sa buhay nila. Dahil nakadepende po yung katayuan ng buhay nila sa mga taong nakapaligid sa kanila, sa pamilya nila, at sa environment nila. Makikita natin dito na sa paglaki nila kung ano ba talaga sila. And pwede naman nating sabihin na parehas silang umasenso and pwede ring may possibilities din na yung isa sa kanila umasenso and yung isa hindi. And may possibilities din na parehas silang hindi umasenso. Maraming possibilities sa pagbabago ng buhay nila. So, yun lamang po. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I'm Jeremy Aurelia Acala and it's my turn to describe Ken and Nashil. Sa tingin ko, sa tingin ko ay si Ken ay nagmula sa isang simple at mahirap na pamilya. Sa tingin ko'y magsasaka ang kaniyang ama tinanim ng mais. Sa tingin ko, habang si Nashil ay mayaman ng pinagmulan base sa ipinakita sa ating larawan, mapapansin sa pananamit at sa kanyang mga ngiti. Sa tingin ko'y may negosyo ang kaniyang ina at ama. Sa tingin ko, sa kanilang paglaki manager, farm manager. Si Nashel naman ay gala doon at dito, dahil siya ay mayaman, nabibili lahat ng gusto. Hindi masyadong naturuan ng magandang kaasalan, dahil sa abala ang kaniyang mga magulang. Siya'y walang trabaho dahil siya'y umaasa sa negosyo ni mama at papa. Sa tingin ko, sa tingin ko.
Good day everyone, this is Jenaline Felicano once again, and now I will answer the 5 questions in analysis. First question: when you gave your own predictions as to the kind of child, adolescent, and adult Nashil and Ken may become, and hypothesized on who they once were, you were referring to human development. What then is development? I think development refers to the growth or change that happens to a person, and it is a process that continues through the lifespan. Then number 2, will there be anything common in the pattern of development of Nashil and Ken? If yes, what? I think yes. If they both have good environment, such as good and loving parents, they may become responsible and good adolescents and adults. So, ibig sabihin po nakadepende sa environment nila. Kung pareha sila ng environment na nilakihan, maaaring may pagkakapareha sa development nilang dalawa. Then, number 3, will there be differences in their development? Example, pace or rate of development. What and why? Yes, they may differ in the outcomes of their development and the rate or pace of development because the outcome and rate may be affected by their life experiences. So, kung magkaiba po sila ng life experiences, maaaring magkaiba talaga sila sa outcome saka sa bilis ng pagde-develop nilang dalawa. Then number 4, will the process of development take place very fast or gradually? Expound your answer. The process of their development take place gradually. Why? Because development won't be done overnight. It is a process and it may take weeks, months, and years for them to develop. Katulad nga po, dahil sinabing proseso ito, hindi naman to agad-agad na overnight mangyayari agad. So, it will take place gradually. Number 5, do you believe that Nashil and Ken continue to develop even in adulthood, or they will stop developing in adulthood? I believe that they will continue to develop even in adulthood because development is lifelong or continues through the lifespan. So as long as we are alive, we will continue to develop. That's all for the analysis. Thank you. Now we will proceed to the application. Number 1, growth is an evidence of life. So what is the meaning of this? We can only say that we are alive when we are growing or changing. So as long as we are alive, we will witness different changes in ourselves. Just like in plants, we can say that it is alive if it doesn't change in appearance. So life is full of changes. Yeah. So katulad nga tayo ng isang halaman na kung di tayo nakikitaan ng pagbabago or paglago, yung growth na yun, hindi natin masasabing buhay yung halaman. So ganun din tayo. Then number 2, define development in your own words. Translate the meaning of development in Filipino and in your local dialects. Dahil Filipino lang po ang alam ko, Tagalog lang ang alam ko. So doon ko lang po itatranslate. And I want to make this simple. Sinagot ko lang po ay development requires changes. Sa Tagalog, ang paglago ay nangangailangan ng pagbabago. Dahil hindi nga natin masasabing lumalago tayo kung walang nagbabago sa atin.
Good day everyone, this is Jeremy Aurelia Acala, And I will answer the question number 3. State the 5 major principles of human development from a lifespan perspective. Give at least one application of each principle in the teaching-learning process. What have these principles to do with you as you teach learners? So sabi ko nga po, nung report ko po nung nakaraan, there are 5 characteristics of human development from a lifespan perspective. First one is, development is lifelong. Ibig sabihin nito, habang tumatanda tayo, doon tayo nagkakaroon ng development kasi nga dahil sa mga experiences and knowledge na nakukuha natin. Second is, development is multidimensional. So meaning, it involves the dynamic interaction of factors like physical. Physical, so usually nakikita po natin ito sa mga nagdadalaga ay nagbibinata. May mga pagbabago sa kanilang mga katawan. And emotional. Pag sinabi po natin emotional, ito na yung social changes. Socio-emotional. Dito na nagkaroon ng interacting with peers, regulating emotions, and possibility of dating. And the last factor is psychosocial. So, pag sinabi po natin psychosocial, ito na yung cognitive changes. Pag sinabi natin cognitive, nagkakaroon tayo ng abstract thinking. May mga sari-sarili na tayong opinion, marunong na tayong makipagdebate sa iba. Development is plastic. So, pag sinabi po natin plastic, it means the capacity for change. Plasticity refers to flexibility in development. So, nakadepende po sa kapasidad or capacity ng pag-iisip ng tao yung pagbabago na gusto or kaya niyang gawin. Development is contextual. So, pag sinabi po natin contextual, nagkakaroon ng development o pagbabago ang isang tao dahil sa ating pamilya, sa ating kaibigan, o sa komunidad na ating kinabibilangan. Maaari din yung history or yung pinagmulan ng tao, kaya kakaiba yung development niya. Development involves growth, maintenance, and regulation. So, nagkakaroon ng development ang isang tao dahil sa naikukumpara niya yung old self niya sa sarili niya kung ano siya ngayon. So, nasa ibang henerasyon na tayo, kaya kailangan mo ng development para sa sarili mo o mas sinasabi nilang glow up. And para po sa akin, all these principles must do in terms of teaching your learners. So, hindi pa naman po ako isang ganap na guro, kaya as a student or reporter, I am a role model. I have the responsibilities to teach or to share my knowledge to my classmates and mold them or to influence them to be a good and to be successful someday.
Number 4, research further on the cephalocaudal and proximodistal patterns of development. Letter A, illustrate both patterns by a drawing or diagram. So, nag-prepare po ako ng pictures dito na nagpapakita ng cephalocaudal at proximodistal pattern. Itong sa cephalocaudal, makikita na yung arrow ay simula sa ulo pababa. Dahil nga, di ba, tulad po ng nireport ko, diniscuss ko nung nakaraan, ng cephalocaudal ay from head to toe. Samantalang yung proximodistal pattern naman, makita natin yung picture na palabas yung arrow. Simula siya sa center to outward. Dahil yun po yung in-explain ko din nung nakaraan na ang proximodistal pattern ay from center to outward. So, una po niyang naigagalaw yung kanyang katawan, yung kanyang mga malalaking bahagi ng katawan niya, yung mga braso niya, yung binti niya, bago yung mga daliri niya. So, yun po yung letter A. Sa letter B naman, how do you apply your knowledge of cephalocaudal and proximodistal patterns in development in your teaching? So, gusto ko pong gamitin tong hint na ibinigay. Ang binigay po na hint ay the pencils of kindergarten and grade 1 pupils are bigger than those of pupils in the higher grade levels. Does this practice have something to do with proximodistal patterns of development? My answer is yes. Dahil katulad po ng sabi ko sa proximodistal pattern, mas nauna po nilang naigagalaw yung braso nila kaysa yung mga daliri nila. So, ibig sabihin, at that age, pag kinder pa lang sila, hindi pa nila ganun nakokontrol yung mga daliri nila. Kaya medyo hirap pa silang humawak ng ibang bagay. Kaya po mapapansin natin na yung mga nasa kinder, nasa grade 1, yung mga ginagamit nilang lapis is yung matataba pa at malalaki. Kasi nga, nahihirapan pa silang i-control yung effort na ibibigay nila doon. So, maaaring kapag binigyan natin sila ng maninipis na lapis, mahirapan silang hawakan yun kasi hindi pa nila ganong mag-grasp. At maaaring maputol pa nila dahil sa tindi ng effort na binibigay na. Kasi napapansin natin, di ba, yung mga kinder, saka yung mga grade 1, ang didiin ng mga sulat nila. So, kasi nagpa-practice pa lang silang magsulat. So, yun po. And yes, it has something to do with the proximo-distal pattern of development.
Number 5. Interpret the following quotations in relation to human development. A. Every man is in certain respects like all other men, like some other men, no other man. By Murray and Clarkson. So ngayon naman po, ipapakita ko yung drawing ko po para mas madali po nating maintindihan yung quotation. Sabi kasi doon, every man is in certain respects like all other men. All other men in such a way that all men have the good and bad characteristics. So lahat naman tayong mga tao, 'di ba? May bad and good sides. In physical features naman, tayong mga babae, pare-pareha tayong may breast. Kaya sinabing all other men. Some, like some other man. Because there are some traits in which are like or similar to a group of people. So for example po sa mga Cebuano. Yung mga Cebuano kasi mainhin sila. Yung kilos, yung pananalita, kahit nagalit na sila, mainhin pa rin. So pag ganun kasi yung tao, may isip agad natin na Cebuano to kasi ganun yung act niya. For example naman sa mga waray. Mga waray kasi is agresibo. Pati sa mga pananalita, kala mo laging galit. So parang nakadepende siya mula doon sa tribo or group of people or community na pinagmulan niya. O kinabibilangan niya ngayon. Me, no other man. No other man because all of us are unique beings. So may kanya-kanya kasi tayong pangangailangan, pakiramdam, kanya-kanyang opinion, ideas, and may mga bagay kasi tayo na kaya nating gawin na hindi kayang gawin or hindi kayang gayahin ng ibang tao. Letter B. Man is an unfinished project. He is always in the process of becoming. Because a person is always in progress in anything. Kasi nga habang nagkakaedad tayo, habang tumatanda tayo, we gain knowledge. So doon tayo nagkakaroon ng development mula doon sa mga natututunan natin sa bawat araw, sa bawat buwan, sa bawat taon o yugto ng ating buhay. Kung mapapansin po natin, isa po itong pahiwatig na hindi lang dito nagtatapos yung development natin kasi habang tumatanda tayo, may mga development pang mangyayari. Kaya may posibilidad na mag-glow up pa tayo. Sana all agad. Number 6. In the light of researches on human development, which of the two approaches is closer to the truth, traditional or lifespan, and why? I think po it is closer to lifespan approach because development is lifelong, so it doesn't end in adulthood. Number 7. If your approach to human development is traditional, are the characteristics of human development from a lifespan perspective are acceptable? Explain your answer. Yes, if my approach to human development is traditional, the characteristics of human development from a lifespan perspective is acceptable because both traditional and lifespan perspective is a lifelong process. And that's all for the application. Thank you.
Now, we will proceed to the big ideas, and this is Jenalyn Felicano once again, and I will discuss the number 1, 2, 3, and 7. So, let's start with number 1, the meaning of human development. So, just like what we tackled, the human development is a pattern of movement or change that begins at conception and continues through the lifespan. So that is human development. Then number 2, 4 principles of human development and their educational implications. Kung ano yung naituturo sa bata, sinabing educational implications. So, the 4 principles are physical principle, cognitive principle, social principle, and emotional principle. So, we will start with the physical principle. Ang educational implication nito is it helps the student to do everything he wants in order to get what was meant by the educator and perform according to the assigned task. So, ibig sabihin, kapag nag-aaral siya, gamit yung physical principle, yung physical niyang pangangatawan, nakokontrol niya yung katawan niya at nagagamit niya para matuto at masunod yung sinasabi ng teacher sa kanya na nagtuturo sa kanya. So, yun ang physical principle. Pangalawa is yung cognitive principle. It helps the students to learn through knowledge-based concepts and ideas. It sharpens their ability to think and speak. Dahil katulad nga po ng sabi natin na yung cognitive is about sa change sa paraan ng pag-iisip, sa kanang pagkasalita. So, through this cognitive principle, dito po natututo sila ng mga knowledge-based concepts and ideas o yung mga tinuturo sa school. Yun po yung cognitive principle. Yung pangatlo is yung social principle naman. It helps the student to learn more by interacting with other people who have different abilities, talents, interests, and also it helps the student to discover more about his or herself in all aspects. So, every time po na nakikipag-socialize ang isang bata, ang isang tao, natututo po siya sa ibang tao at the same time natututo din siyang mas makilala pa ang sarili niya. So, yun pong educational implication ng social principle. And last is emotional principle. Ito naman po, it helps the student learn by connecting to the other people through their emotions and feelings and how they act and respond based on it. So, every time po na ito po yung pinagsama-samang social, cognitive at physical principle, itong emotional principle. Dahil lahat po yung gagamitin niya para mai-apply niya ang kanyang emosyon. So, dito naman nakaka-connect siya sa mga tao, naiintindihan niyang tao, ang emosyon ng tao. At doon din po siya natututo kung paano mag-react sa mga ganong bagay. So, iyon po ang number 2, yung 4 principles of human development and their educational implications. Now, the number 3, patterns of development. The direction of growth following the cephalocaudal pattern is from head to the toe. And letter B, the direction of growth following the proximodistal pattern is from center or core to the outward.
Hello everyone, once again, it's me Jeremy Aurelia Acala. So number 4, 2 approaches to human development, traditional versus lifespan concept. Development during childhood. In traditional approach, it shows extensive change during infancy. In lifespan development, change takes place as it does during childhood. Development during adulthood. Little or no change in adulthood, and in lifespan, it emphasizes development change during adulthood as well as childhood. Development stage or stages as focus of study. The traditional approach to the study of development emphasizes extensive change from birth to adolescence, especially during infancy, little or no change in adulthood, and decline in late old age. In lifespan approach, focus on human growth and changes across the lifespan, including physical, cognitive, social, intellectual, perceptual, personality, and emotional growth. Number 5. Characteristics of human development from a lifespan perspective. Just like what I have said earlier, there are 5 characteristics of human development from a lifespan perspective. Development is lifelong, multidimensional, contextual, plastic, and development includes growth, maintenance, and regulation. Number 6. In one sentence, write the principle on human development expressed in this Venn diagram. These processes are the process of changes that begins at conception and continues through the lifespan.
The pattern is complex because it is the product of biological, cognitive, and socio-emotional processes. Biological processes produce changes in an individual's physical nature. Cognitive changes refer to changes in the individual's thought, intelligence, and language. Socio-emotional involve changes in the individual's relationships with other people, changes in emotions, and changes in personality.
And now we will go to number 7, and once again, this is Jenaline M. Pelicano. Number 7, discuss the meaning of the quotations written beneath the title of this unit and module. Relate the quotation to your life. So, ito po yung quotation na sinabi ni William Shakespeare. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. So, kung aralin po natin to by line, sinasabi na all the world's a stage. So, dito po, kinumpara ni William Shakespeare ang ating mundo bilang isang stage kung saan nagaganap yung mga play, yung mga drama, mga theater plays. Sa pangalawa namang line, and all the men and women merely players. So, sinasabi naman po dito na tayong mga tao, yung characters ng play na iyon na nagaganap sa mundo. Third line, they have their exits and entrances. Sinasabi po dito na lahat tayo ay sinilang, yun po ang ating entrance, at lahat tayo ay mamamatay. Yun naman po ang ating exits. And the last part, and one man in his time plays many parts. Sinasabi naman po dito na tayong mga tao, lahat tayo ay may purpose at contribution na gagawin sa mundong ito. At madalas, hindi lang isa yung role natin, kundi madami tayong role or responsibilities na ginampanan sa mundong ito. At gaya ng sabi ni Shakespeare, ang mundong ginagalawan natin ay tulad ng entablado kung saan tayong mga tao ang characters or bida ng play. Lahat tayo ay sinilang at mamamatay. At sa mundong ito, habang tayo nabubuhay, may mga role or purpose tayong ginagampanan. Madalas ay hindi lang isa. Kung i-relate ko ito sa buhay ko, masasabi kong tama si Shakespeare sa quotation na ito dahil bilang isang tao, ako ay sinilang. Nag-entrance ako sa mundo na ito at tiyak na mamamatay at tiyak na mag-exit din ako. Parang akong character sa isang play dahil sa mga responsibilidad o roles na ginagampanan ko na hindi lang isa, kundi madaming roles sa family, sa work, sa lahat ng aking ginagawa, sa church, at patuloy kong gagampanan ng mga yun hanggang sa huling hininga ng buhay ko. So, parang itong quotation na ito, nagpapakita na lahat tayo ay may gagampanan na roles. At gagampanan natin yun hanggang sa huling hininga natin sa mundong ito. So, that's it for number 7.
Magandang araw. Ako po si Edward Bringhino. Narito po ako upang sagutan ang application na Test Your Understanding. So, let's start. Bago yan, basahin po muna natin ang panuto. Sabi sa panuto, put a check before a correct statement and an X before a wrong one. If you put X, explain why. So, number 1, development is a pattern of change. I put check. Number 2, development is either growth or decline. I put check on it. And number 3, from both traditional and lifespan perspective, development is lifelong. I put check. In the development process, there are things that hold true to all people. Number 4 is check. Number 5, individuals develop uniformly. I put check. And number 6, development is predictable because it follows an orderly process. I put check. And number 7, development is unidimensional. I put check. Number 8, development takes place in a vacuum. I put check. And number 9, the effect of biological process on development is isolated from the effect of cognitive and socio-emotional process. I put check. Bakit po tama ang lahat ng mga statement? Dahil po sa aking palagay ay Lahat po ng statement na yan ay nabanggit sa mga report ng aking mga kasama sa Module 1. Yun lamang po. Maraming salamat.
For the reflection, mayroon po akong ipapanood na video sa inyo. Ito pong video na ito ay tungkol sa istorya ng isang teacher at ng estudyante niya, na kung saan tinuruan ng teacher yung estudyante niya, gayon din ay natuto yung teacher sa estudyante niya. So here's the video.
And I'd like to read this to you, if I can do it without tearing up. There's a story many years ago of an elementary school teacher. Her name was Mrs. Thompson. As she stood in front of her 5th grade class on the very first day of school, she told the children a lie. Like most teachers, she looked at her students and said that she loved them all the same. But that was impossible because there in the front row, slumped in his seat, was a little boy named Teddy Stoddard. Mrs. Thompson had watched Teddy the year before and noticed that he didn't play well with the other children, that his clothes were messy and that he constantly needed a bath. Teddy could be unpleasant. It got to the point where Mrs. Thompson would actually take delight in marking his papers with a broad red pen and making bold X's and then putting a big F at the top of his papers. At the school where Mrs. Thompson taught, she was required to review each child's past records, and she put Teddy's off until last. However, when she reviewed his file, she was in for a surprise. Teddy's 1st grade teacher wrote, "Teddy is a bright child with a ready laugh. He does his work neatly and he has good manners. He's a joy to be around." His 2nd grade teacher wrote, "Teddy's an excellent student, well liked by his classmates, but he's troubled because his mother has a terminal illness and life at home must be a struggle." His 3rd grade teacher wrote, "His mother's death has been hard on him. He tries to do his best, but his father doesn't show much interest and his home life will soon affect him if steps aren't taken." Teddy's 4th grade teacher wrote, "Teddy's withdrawn and doesn't show up much interest in school. He doesn't have many friends and sometimes he even sleeps in class." By now, Mrs. Thompson realized the problem and she was ashamed of herself. She felt even worse when her students brought her Christmas presents wrapped in beautiful ribbons and bright paper, except for Teddy's. His present was clumsily wrapped in heavy brown paper that he got from the grocery bag. Mrs. Thompson took pains to open it in the middle of the other presents. Some of the children started to laugh when she found a rhinestone bracelet with some of the stones missing and a bottle that was 1/4 full of perfume. But she stifled her children's laughter when she exclaimed how pretty the bracelet was, putting it on and dabbing some of the perfume on her wrist. Teddy Stoddard stayed after school that day just long enough to say, "Mrs. Thompson, today you smell just like my mom used to." After the children left, she cried for at least an hour. On the very day, she quit teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic, and instead, she began to teach children. Mrs. Thompson paid particular attention to Teddy. As she worked with him and his mind seemed to come alive, the more she encouraged him, the faster he responded. By the end of the year, Teddy had become one of the smartest children in the class, and despite her lie, became one of her teacher's pets. A year later, she found a note under the door from Teddy telling her that she was still the best teacher he ever had in his whole life. 6 years went by before she got another note from Teddy. He then wrote that he had finished high school 3rd in his class, and she was still the best teacher he ever had in his whole life. 4 years after that, she got another letter saying that while things had been tough at times, he stayed in school and stuck with it, and would soon graduate from college with the highest of honors. He assured Mrs. Thompson that she was still the very best and favorite teacher he ever had in his whole life. Then 4 more years passed, and yet another letter came. This time he explained that after he got his bachelor's degree, he decided to go a little further. The letter explained that she was still the best and favorite teacher he ever had, but now his name was a little longer. The letter was signed Theodore F. Stoddard, M.D. But the story doesn't end there. You see, there was yet another letter that spring. Teddy said he'd met this girl and was going to be married. He explained that his father had died a couple of years ago, and he was wondering if Mrs. Thompson might agree to sit in the place at the wedding that was usually reserved for the mother of the groom. Of course, Mrs. Thompson did, and guess what? She wore that bracelet, the one with the several rhinestones missing. And she made sure she was wearing the perfume that Teddy remembered his mother wearing on their last Christmas together. They hugged each other, and Dr. Stoddard whispered in Mrs. Thompson's ear, "Thank you so much for making me feel important and showing me that I could make a difference." Mrs. Thompson came with tears in her eyes and whispered back, "Teddy, you have it all wrong. You were the one who taught me that I could make a difference. I didn't know how to teach until I met you."
After reading that story dun sa module na ibinigay at pinanood ko ulit tong video na ito, may na-realize po ko na dalawang bagay. Yung una, never judge the book by its cover. Dahil nakita niyo naman po na dahil tinignan lang niya yung physical appearance ng bata, ninais niya, natutuwa pa nga siya, di ba, na sinabing nabigyan niya ng bagsak na marka. Pero nung nalaman niya kung ano yung pinagdaanan ng bata, dun niya nagsimulang maintindihan yung mismong book, yung mismong pagkatao ng bata. Dun niya nagsimulang ma-appreciate yung bata. Yung pangalawa naman is yung learn from the book and apply it in your life. Kung paanong natuto siya, nalaman niya yung buhay at pinagdaanan ni Teddy, sa kanya in-apply sa buhay niya. Kaya hindi nang gusto kong mangyari sa akin. Na yung mga natututunan ko sa tao, sa buhay ng tao, gusto ko ding i-apply sa buhay ko to make me a better person, to make me a better version of myself. So, how about you? What did you realize after watching this video? Once again, this is the Group 1. I am Jenalyn Felicano. And this is our report for Module 1. Thank you so much.